war God of Abraham create the earth in the paradisical state of Genesis? And did humans ruin that paradise? Or did God let natural processes unfold, such as evolution, over vast amounts of time? For nearly 2,000 years, Christians believed, some still do, that all of God's creatures lived in harmony with each other in the Garden of Eden, without killing or death. In Genesis 1:29, God lists only herbs, seeds, and fruits as food. Yeah, God was a vegetarian because he had to be. Death wasn't a thing yet. The story of man bringing death and sin into this paradise got God off the hook for a lot of the evil we experience, including physical death, everything leading up to it, and the idea that God created sentient beings whose survival is dependent on killing and eating other sentient beings. That includes all the various species which are high-functioning, cognitively speaking. The earth of God's creation is not fallen. Young earth creationists might be nuts about evolution, but they're not wrong to be bothered by an allegedly good God who creates a world filled with, how did Prager put it again?
This life is filled with an immeasurable amount of injustice and suffering.
Obviously, that includes death. Christians defending an old earth and universe now claim right here in the comments section of my channel that the Bible never says the wages of sin is death, physical death, despite the Apostle Paul literally saying that. Now they argue that Paul was talking about spiritual death, separation from God, even though the examples Paul gives directly after that are obviously of people physically dying. Okay, fine. But now we have a God who created earth with mandatory death sentences for everyone, sinner or not. And a God who created a world where sentient beings must kill and eat each other for their survival. Lovely. But good? And why celebrate the physical bodily resurrection of Jesus every year? If we didn't bring death into this world, this paradisical world, with our sin, then God didn't need Jesus' sinless sacrifice to resurrect us. The entire justice element of that piece of Christian theology is gone. As our commenter points out, there is no link between sin and physical death. The other question is, how exactly did Fred and Wilma cause our spiritual death some 1 million years ago? If they did, why does that apply to the rest of us? And was God here with everyone prior to that for billions of years? Was God here hanging out with Australopithecus afarensis, with Homo habilis, with my favorite Homo, Homo erectus? And if Jesus conquered spiritual death with his sacrifice on the cross and subsequent resurrection, then why are we all still separated from God's divine goodness? JC paid that check 2,000 years ago. Why aren't we all eating that bread of life right here, right now? Of course, we can trust that some Christian with a really big brain will have an answer to all of these questions, right? They always have an answer. They just don't have any answers that make sense or conform to reality, let alone their own scriptures, which seem more and more ridiculous by the day, don't they? Oh, by the way, a day is 1/6 of the time it took God to create the entire universe and everything in it, according to those scriptures. Once again, I'm me. Thanks for watching.
This life is filled with an immeasurable amount of injustice and suffering.